Yes. Yes, it's recording. Awesome. Okay.
Wonderful. Uh, so how did you end up in Dubai? Are you originally Dubai?
No, I'm not originally from Dubai. I was born and brought up in Delhi, New Delhi, and I was actually it's a long story short. I started working for a bank in the US. You know the call centers, right? So I was
Mhm.
working for one of the call centers in New Delhi, basically for credit card collections, and that's how I got an opportunity in Dubai for RBS Bank. So which got then merged with one of the local banks here, and that's how I ended up in collections, and that's the start of my journey of becoming a credit manager. So that's that's the whole story. And then I realized that I should start doing some courses in finance, and I should increase my skill level to enhance the career further.
Right.
Right.
So will CMA help your career?
it it has already started helping
Okay.
because
Because I asked because, we always say that
yes,
it'll help your career. And it's always good to hear somebody say it actually did, not just a theoretical,
yeah,
should help your career, but a practical, it actually did. So,
yes, it actually did. See, my original thought of doing a CMA was not because it'll land me a job or something. It was because I wanted to enhance my financial skills, which was near to zero. I couldn't, when I used to sit with the management, I ended up in a management level because I was good in the other part of it. But when I used to sit with them and they used to talk about the financials, the P&Ls, and the balance sheets, and I was feeling a little lost at that time.
mhm.
So I asked a colleague of mine that what is it that I should start with, which can be like the starting point, which could be easy. It was easy for him. I didn't know it will be so tough when I when I started CMA, to be honest. But um, that's when I started. So I wanted to make, I wanted all of this to make sense to me, and how to read financials of a company, how to understand if if the company is in profit or is in loss, or if the cash flow is correct, all these things I wanted to understand. And CM has immensely helped it. Obviously, I mean, my colleagues and my managers do say that your financial knowledge has increased immensely.
It's interesting. I had a woman, I taught in Russia well, I lived in Russia for 18 years. I taught CMA in Russia for 12 years. And probably in like 2002, 2003, I
Mm-hmm,
had a student and she came to class and
mm-hmm,
she failed the exam. And she came to class again and she failed the exam again.
mm-hmm,
She came to class again. And so at some point I asked her, I just said, I'm happy to teach you but why do you keep coming to class? And she said, well, even though I failed the exam all these times, my bosses told me how much better I'm doing at my job.
mm-hmm.
And her problem was her English probably wasn't good enough. And she probably spent so long reading each question, she just didn't have time. But I've always remembered her saying that it isn't, you know, having the letters after your name isn't what helps you do your job better. Knowing the content
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of it is what helps you do your job better. And so if somebody fails because their English isn't
Mm-hmm.
strong enough,
Yeah.
if you still understand the financial elements of it all, you're going to be much better at your job. And she was the perfect example of, I never passed the exam, but I learned all this stuff and I'm doing my job better. So,
But that's amazing, actually. That's
yeah.
that's like, I really feel connected with this thing, because even me, when I started, I didn't know how much value CMA can actually add to my career, because I mean, I haven't got certainly a promotion when I was when I'm done with the CMA. It's not something like that. It's not.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not that I started getting job offers. It's not, I'm not saying that CMA is bad, same is good. CMA is actually, I think, perfect blend of certain financial which you actually need. This is all relevant, and it's all what you need. I mean, that I had a couple of questions for you for my own, I mean, career and understanding where I should land, which I will start with. I don't know how much time you've dedicated for this call. I'm really not sure of that, but I just
I know. I mean, I don't have a time to end. at some point I'm going to eat lunch in a couple hours. So as
No.
long as we have good conversation, I'm good to go.
Yeah, I mean it's so surreal, to be honest. First thing to see you, because I've seen you in your videos only, so I've seen
Far too many times, right?
far too many times, and your videos are so good, because sometimes when I wanted to say this to you, sometimes when you make those gestures, some of those gestures, because I still remember, it's so fresh in my mind, that you laugh and you smile while saying something, and you say, this is what you should know, and this is what you should, all these things
Yeah.
are so good. I mean, I couldn't even relate to any of the competition, to be honest. I don't know why people even go for the competition, but yeah, I mean, just a quick
Well,
story of this. Yeah,
yeah.
please tell me.
No, no, go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly, I was with another competition when I started, because that's what the institute forced me into, the one that
Mhm.
I joined. And thank God that I met a guy, a teacher, who's Fayaz Khan. Fayaz sir. I don't know. He keeps contacting you. He's based in Abu Dhabi. So he's the person who actually introduced me to Hock. I didn't know about Hock, obviously. So, and he told me that you should go and get Hock material and study from Hock material. That's all that you should study. I asked him time and again, should I compare like one section from you, one section from Wiley, one section from Glam, one section from all these things? That's what people think of, right? But he said no. I mean, just blindly go for Hawk. And that's when I started searching and started researching and all these things. And the one thing that stuck me, I should mention this one thing that actually struck me was your you pass or you pay guarantee that you guys have.
Mhm.
I was like, I mean, how come you guys are giving this kind of a guarantee? There must be something, I mean, in your material that you are ready to give a guarantee, because you only see guarantees in cars, right? You don't see, you don't see guarantees in the material that if you don't pass, we will pay your fees. So that's something that got really struck me, and I thought that if that material is so good, let me try it. And I'm being very honest, if it wasn't for your material, I wouldn't have been a CMA today. I I am not from a finance background. I was studying science when I was in my grade twos, and I wanted to become a doctor, to be honest, but that didn't fall through. And I started working, as I told you, in a call center, and started doing odd jobs. And I started with my career, did my graduation in science, and then I did my MBA, where the little portion of finance also was there, the accounting and finance part. I was lost. So
Mhm.
that's the finance background that I have. And if I can become a CMA with zero commerce knowledge, zero finance background, with your material, anybody can. That's something that I should.
Well, I'll tell you the story of how I started writing materials, and it kind
Yeah,
of
I wanted
follows
to ask you.
exactly
Yeah.
what you're saying. I started teaching CPA
Hmm.
in the year 2000. Oh, can you still hear me?
I can hear, but I can see. You can't see
Yeah,
you.
I say it looks like
Back-
my video froze.
Your video froze. Just let's
Oh,
just.
we'll just wait a second.
Yeah.
If you can still hear me. Okay, there we go. Well, no, maybe not. But if you can
Can you
hear
can
me,
you can you still see me?
I can see you. I can see you. You're waving.
Hmm. But your
Uh,
video your video is frozen.
yeah. Oh, wait, let me stop video and start video. Let's see.
Hmm. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Very good. Yeah.
So I started teaching CPA,
Hmm.
and at the time, this is kind of a long story. I was working at Arthur Andersen. I was the training manager for Arthur Andersen for Russia and all the former Soviet Union countries.
Hmm.
And at that time in Russia, Becker was just coming,
Okay.
and it cost $6,000 a person
Hmm.
to do CPA with Becker. And so I said, I can stand up in front of a group of people and make a fool of myself for a lot less than $6,000.
Hmm.
So I left Arthur Andersen and I set up to teach CPA. And at the beginning, I used the material that was written by BISC. And
Okay.
BISC doesn't exist anymore. They got bought by somebody else. But anyway, so I was using BISC material.
Mm.
And at that time, and this is our competitors, are all review material.
Mm.
They assume that you studied all of this
Mm. Mm. Mm.
recently.
Mm.
You just graduated from university 3 months
Mm.
ago.
Mm.
You studied all this and you just need to review it. And so at one point in CPA material, one of our competitors' material to teach bond accounting
Mm.
was 5 pages and had no numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Our material was like 30 pages
Mm-hmm.
and had multiple examples.
Yep.
Here's a bond discount, here's a bond premium, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was teaching CPA. I had a group in Almaty, Kazakhstan.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I taught them, and it was bonds and leases, I think
Mm-hmm.
and I taught it in one day. And at the end of the day, they said, we just have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
None of us, they just don't understand it. So that night at the hotel, I typed up, this is what a bond is,
Mm-hmm.
little text box and face value, interest rate,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, maturity date.
Yeah.
And then I drew a diagram. Here's the cash flow. The buyer buys the bond and cash goes to the issuer. Then there's interest. And I explained it in great detail. And so I took it the next day and I showed it to them and they said, this is great. Can you do the rest of the book too? And so the way our material started was essentially me writing the material
Mm-hmm.
for people, because in 2000 in Kazakhstan, the students, they worked for the Big Four, but they didn't have accounting degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Or they did have accounting degrees, they weren't the same level of accounting degree. And so I ended up writing all of the material, kind of starting a step earlier,
Mm-hmm.
not assuming that you learned bonds before and you just need to review it,
Mm-hmm.
but that you need to understand what a bond is.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand what a private pension is.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand all these things, starting a step earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so our materials have always been more complete, more
Mm-hmm.
detailed, more examples, more of a, start at the beginning instead of starting partway through. For a while, I don't remember when,
Mm-hmm.
we tried to call our materials preparatory materials
Mm-hmm.
because it isn't review. We're not
It's not
reviewing
yeah, true,
with you, we're preparing you.
true.
Well, we learned that nobody in the market understood what preparatory materials were. And
So
so
you had to.
we have to call them review just because that's the industry standard. But that's what we've done for our materials. The kind of one of the things in the market that people say is,
Mm.
if you don't have a strong accounting or finance background, you need to study with us.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Because we start a little bit earlier in the process
Yes,
than
yes,
the
yes.
others.
And that's the reason people who already have a bit of the financial knowledge or something, they find your material too long, maybe,
Yeah.
because they already know half of these things. But instead, I would even suggest for them as well, because it the foundation is so strong, so that you don't fall off at
Yeah.
any point of time.
Well, the thing too is, one time when economics was on the exam,
Yep.
somebody wrote and said, your economics material is too detailed, there's too much. And so in talking to this person, they had a PhD in economics.
Yeah.
Well, of course, if you have a PhD in economics,
Correct.
me talking about here's how the demand curve is created.
Yeah.
But the person who has a PhD in economics doesn't know anything about overhead allocation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it may be boring for you for part of the topics,
Yes.
but then those other topics that you don't have that experience in, you need that foundation to make certain that you get through and that you understand what it is that you need to know for the exam. So that's how we created the material, really, for people that were not just graduated 2
Just
weeks
now.
ago with the Masters of Accountancy.
Yeah.
Um,
So obviously, I mean, that's one of my questions that I had for you. When did you start? So you already told me about it.
yeah.
But what is the material you studied when you gave your CMA, CPA, and CIA exams?
When I passed CPA in 94,
Mm.
when I was at school, I passed 3 parts the first time, and I studied. The first time I took the exam, I studied with a company called Convisor Duffy.
Convisor Duffy.
They
Okay.
don't exist anymore. And they became Convisor. They got bought by somebody. So just interesting. In all these companies that provide material, Gleim is the first.
Okay.
Gleim started in like 1973.
Okay.
Selling CPA books.
Okay.
Okay, and so Gleim is the oldest. And Gleim Delaney, there was a guy Delaney. And so somehow Gleim left and Gleim had to stay out of the market for some period of time, and then it became Delaney, maybe it was Convisor Delaney, but anyway.
Yeah.
So Gleim is the one that originally essentially started this industry, and most people are able to they were at some point connected with Gleim going through that. What's happened now is most of the providers are really corporate companies. Like Wiley. Wiley is a $4 billion capitalization publishing company,
Wow.
publicly traded company, $4 billion capitalization. And so for Wiley, as the company Wiley, I mean, their CMA materials are just a
Small portion.
fraction of a fraction of a fraction of Wiley's operations. I mean, if you go, I don't have any books in my office right now, but if you just look at finance books, there are a lot of books that are published by Wiley. They're just a publishing company. And so Wiley is corporate. Surgent has been bought by a corporation. Gleim is still owned by Irv Gleim. He's still there. Wonderful man. Gleim also does pilots training.
Pilots training. Wow.
And so when you go to Gleim's website, do you want accounting or aviation?
Yeah.
That they have.
Oh, okay. That's that. Okay. Didn't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Irv Gleim for close to 20 years.
Okay.
And so we are a little bit unique still in that there's a Hock involved. There's no Wiley involved. There's no Bisk involved. There's no Becker involved anymore in these companies. Becker's a huge. Becker's part of a corporate entity as well. And from what I understand too, something we do better than other companies is we actually answer questions.
Okay.
Apparently, if you send a question to Wiley,
student forum,
it never comes back. You never get an answer, and we do that because. And actually, I don't know how many questions you ever asked, but Lynn Roden, she answers all of our questions that same day. I mean, there's a time difference for you.
Yes.
But whatever question she wakes up in the morning and sees, they're all answered.
Yes.
And I can kind of sit here and watch my email as, people post a question on the forum. I get, there's Lynn responded to that question on the forum. And so we provide better support, I think.
Yes.
Than most.
Much better. Yeah.
And it's something too that I know obviously we haven't done it recently, but we've been to Dubai a couple of times for IMA conferences. And so we show up and we go to these conferences, and usually it's me and my brother Kevin are there. And it's obvious that the people that are there for Wiley and Gleim are just salespeople.
Yes.
I mean, they're working there as a salesperson for Gleim, and next year they might be working for somebody else, they're doing something else, but this is what we do. And so I'm full-time, Lynn is full-time, Kevin is full-time. The people that we've got, some people that we contract out some work, but for the most part, this is our job. This is what we do. So
that's awesome. It's one of these things which is also unique. You're very right. I mean, this connection that you feel that you have with you guys. I mean, Lynn is your wife, daughter, right?
No, Lynn, my wife is Yulia, and she does our marketing.
Okay.
And she does, so if you look on Facebook and our social media, she's the one that's running social media and comments in that way. So my wife, Yulia, Kevin is my brother. Lynn is the one who's not related. Lynn is not a family member, but Lynn has been working for 16 or 17 years with me.
Okay.
She was a student. She was a student who was asking questions when she was taking the CMA exam. And her questions were so good. And after she passed, I said, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And so she's been working for, 16 or 17 years now. And she does CMA. So anytime, and so sometimes people, not argue, but say, well, that's not right, or that's not. And, 9 times out of 10, if not more, Lynn is the one that's correct about how something is done. So, but we have a team. This is our team, and this is what we do. And so.
You didn't get any offers from any corporates to buy you guys? I mean, I'm sure you.
We've licensed material.
Mhm.
We licensed our CMA material to Becker.
Okay.
And so until November, they canceled it and now they have their own materials. But for a couple of years, the Becker
Mm.
CMA material was us.
Okay.
Their videos
Wow.
were me. Their textbook,
Wow.
I mean, they took our textbook and
Mm.
essentially search and replaced Hock with Becker.
Mm.
So if you open their textbook to page 281, it was exactly the same as our textbook page 281.
Wow.
So we've licensed our material to Becker. We've
Mhm.
licensed our CPA material to another company, but we're getting out of CPA, so we're not going to be doing CPA anymore going forward.
You're getting out
Uh,
of CPA.
yeah,
Why? Why is that? Now that's what my next question was, because I wanted to understand, because I wanted to do CPA or CFA, so wasn't able to make a
based on
choice.
what you've said about, and we can talk about this in more
Mm.
detail, you might be interested in CIA,
Okay.
internal audit, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
We got out of CPA because at the end of the day, we don't make enough money on it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that our materials are very good.
Mm-hmm.
CPA, the content changes more often than CMA.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's more of an exercise to keep it updated.
Okay.
Um, Audit laws, the audit regulations change more. The tax regulations change now in America every 6 months with
Mm-hmm.
significant changes to them.
Mm-hmm.
US GAAP is changing.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to change the syllabus, little things more often.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it just became more, I mean, the return on investment simply wasn't there anymore.
Okay.
And so, I mean, this was on Monday. I made this decision that we would,
Just now. Wow.
yeah, just a few days. So we're still telling people that, I mean, we had somebody just write us, I did the CPA trial and now I can't find the materials. What happened? And I said, well, we
Yeah.
don't have them anymore.
Okay.
But it's also something that in the past 18 months, our CMA business has grown so much, our CIA business is starting to grow, that
Mm-hmm.
there's um, more opportunity, and my time is better spent
On that. Okay.
growing CMA and CIA than
Mm-hmm.
trying to compete in CPA. You'll see over the next couple of months a new project that we're working on that will come out in CMA.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that when we announce it, you'll understand that that's what I was referring to probably.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a matter of really, and a lot of what this new project isn't so much about selling, but just helping CMA candidates in general,
Mm-hmm.
providing support to the market, to, you know, whether you have our materials or don't have our materials, just helping people do what
Mm-hmm.
they need to do and find the information that they need. But in terms of what you want to do in your next
Yeah.
certification,
Yeah.
one of the problems and one of the difficulties for
Mm-hmm.
CPA for candidates outside the US is simply being eligible.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it becomes a huge hassle.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of, to me, I always am concerned that I'm going to sell CPA materials to somebody who turns out not to be eligible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to do that. I don't want people to spend their time. And so the first thing, if you were to say to me, I'm interested in CPA,
Check the
I would
objective.
first talk to you about, are you eligible? Are you
Mm-hmm.
going to be eligible? Is CPA something that's going to help you do your job
Mm-hmm.
or help you get the job you want 5 years from now?
Yeah.
Because CPA is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
CPA is expensive. I mean, the
Okay.
cost to take the exams outside the US
Mm-hmm.
is a lot.
Yes.
And what happens is, like, one part of the CPA exam is US taxation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't need US taxation.
Yes. Yes.
One
True.
part of the CPA exam is audit,
Mm-hmm.
external audit. You don't need, I mean, unless you want to become an auditor, you don't need to study external auditing. And so what happens is you're having to study things that you will never use again.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
that's one of the things I say about CMA, because you're sitting there studying and you say, okay, capital budgeting.
mm,
You may say, okay, I don't do capital budgeting in my job,
yeah.
but I see that my company does it.
Yes. Yes.
I see that my company is making these decisions to invest or not invest $17 million, this is the process they're doing.
Yes.
You may say, I'm not involved in strategic planning,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that somebody in the company is. And so it makes it easier to study for CMA because you can see that this is relevant.
Relevance, yes.
Okay. Maybe I don't do capital budgeting right now, but if I get promoted, maybe I will.
Mm.
Or I'll be in a team that's involved with capital budgeting. But when you're sitting there studying US taxation,
Yeah.
you have no incentive, no motivation,
Mm.
no background. There's no, and so it becomes simply, I call it just simply an academic exercise
Just to
to
pass.
memorize the requirements of US taxation,
Yes.
which who cares?
Yeah.
So what happens is you spend a lot of time and a lot of money
Mm.
doing something that gives you the letter CPA.
Mm.
But even if you're eligible to take the exam,
Mm-hmm.
there are very strict experience requirements to get your license.
Yeah.
So you may not get your license
Yeah.
if you don't have experience under a CPA.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of time and a lot of money for something that may or may not benefit what you're trying to do. Now, in your case, if you're looking at business in general,
Mm.
okay, it seemed like you liked CMA because that's what businesses do. This is how a
Yeah.
business operates.
Yeah.
You're able to be involved in these management level discussions
Yes.
much more intelligently
Yes.
because what they're talking about makes sense. And
Yeah.
one of the things too about CMA is I say it helps you understand how parts of a business are connected
Mm-hmm.
and how, a policy that you have over here about marketing actually needs to be connected to what you're doing with production.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your marketing is targeting your cheapest goods because you want to sell a lot,
Mm-hmm.
production is trying to make the most expensive goods because the contribution is higher, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Correct.
And so if you see all these pieces,
Yes.
it tells you CMA helps you know what questions you need to ask,
Yes.
even if you don't know the answer.
Yes.
But you can sit there and you can kind of say, something's not right here.
Yes.
What he's saying over there doesn't go together with what she's trying to do over here. We need to figure this out.
Yeah.
And so I think, first of all, CFA,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to go into investment banking,
Investment banking. Yeah.
do CFA.
Yeah.
If you
I
don't
know.
want to go into investment banking, don't do it. And I used to teach CFA level 1.
Okay.
CFA level 1 is an excellent exam.
Mm.
At least it used to be. Accounting, economics, a very good, just general business. But level 2 and level 3
Yeah.
are such detailed statistics
Yeah.
that if that's not what you're going to do,
Mm.
you're never going to pass.
Okay.
Because, I'm not a math person.
Yeah.
I don't, all that. But I look at it, I don't even understand what they're trying to discuss, let alone the details of the discussion to answer the question.
Mm.
So if you want to do investment banking, absolutely you need to do CFA.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to do investment banking,
Then
you
it's
don't need to do it.
yeah.
And so my feeling is in the United States, Sarbanes-Oxley and
Mm-hmm.
every other country's requirements about internal control and
Mm-hmm.
growing requirements about corporate governance and all of these, issues that are happening.
Yeah.
I think that CMA is how a business operates,
Mm-hmm.
and CIA is really the control process that needs to happen within that business.
Okay.
And so I think that if you're a CMA and
Yep.
you also have CIA,
Mm-hmm.
that is going to separate you more
Mm-hmm.
than somebody who has CMA and CPA.
Mm-hmm.
Because CMA and CPA are kind of, I mean, nobody in UAE needs US taxation.
Yep.
So you're not adding a skill set to the company, you're adding these letters after your name.
Yep.
But if I was interviewing somebody for an accounting or finance position, And I said, well, wait a second, this person's also a certified internal auditor. That's got to be good. Better that somebody understands internal controls, segregation of duties,
Yep.
What should be happening from that corporate governance standpoint. They kind of go together. And then also for CIA, it's 3 exams. Part 3 is a lot of CMA.
So you
So
can easily,
you've already prepared
a
for
lot.
part 3. Not all of it. It's not something where you just, okay, I'm already prepared. You need to study for it. But if you were to, when somebody does CMA and then CIA, I tell them start with part 3. I've already studied financial accounting, management accounting, IT, corporate governance. So start with part 3. And then I don't have them in here. The CMA or the CIA part 1 textbook. Actually, I do have that. We're in the process of updating it. So I can tell you that right now, it looks like it'll be less than 200 pages.
Okay. Part
The
3
CIA
textbook.
part 2 textbook will be about 200 pages.
Okay.
Now, I'm not trying to tell you that they're easy, but you had 800 pages for CMA part 1 and 800 pages for CMA part 2.
700 something, I remember exactly. Yeah.
To 200 pages.
Yeah.
For CIA part 1, not volume 1, but all of CIA part 1 is, we were just calculating yesterday, it's like 60 hours for part 1, 60 hours for part 2. And again, not that it's easy, because it's not. One of the things about CIA that makes it difficult is in CMA, one of the most difficult topics for people is internal controls.
Yes, it is. It is actually.
Overhead allocation, there's a formula. The cost of debt, the cost of equity, there's a formula. And I can tell you, well, you needed to subtract this and you added it. You multiplied the, it's a formula, it's a number. We understand why it's right or wrong. With internal controls for CMA,
yes. So
what jobs should not be done by the same person? In your company, the controller does something different than this company's controller. And so it becomes a gray area. And so CIA has a lot more of those gray areas in terms of, what's the procedure that we should be doing? When we discover this, what's the next step? So it's not easy, but it's shorter. And so after the time commitment that you've made for CMA part 1, and the time commitment you made for CMA part 2, you can study CIA in less time, the 3 parts of CIA in the less time than it took you to study CMA. And so I'm not saying you should do CIA, but if you're looking for another certification, CIA will be shorter. It's more relevant. And so it'll be easier to study, because you can say, this is how a company should operate.
Yes.
This is how the internal audit activity should operate. This is how, and it's something that when you look for another job, it'll be different. It may open you up to more
controller roles.
A company may say, we're really looking for people in internal audit too. And that's also something that internal auditors are supposed to really, in a sense, understand the operations of the business. And so if an internal auditor understands CMA, they're able to go in and look at the production process and be able to connect what's happening here with what happened over there in another department, another office, another factory of the company. And I think you're able to add more value
than doing a CPA.
CPA is good letters, and for whatever reason in the market, everybody in the market wants a CPA.
That's,
I don't know why. Because
even in the UAE,
in the US, yes, you need US tax, external audit. But if you're in the UAE, who cares about US tax? Who cares about external audit under US audit standards too? And US GAAP, nobody uses US GAAP except the US. And so even that, there's even the accounting that's tested on the CPA exam is not really relevant
Hmm.
everywhere else in the world.
Understood. Understood. It's actually very good what you just said. It's actually opening up my mind a lot. What I'm just thinking of earlier, and now it's changing a lot because CPA, as you said, the market. I don't know why the market wants it here. People advertise jobs in such a way that you're either a CPA, CMA, or just a CPA. They sometimes write CMA, they sometimes don't. So, I mean, those are one of the things that it's attracting more and more people to pursue CPA. In India, we have chartered accountancy. People do
Right.
CA there. It's also very huge. It's vast. People take like 4 or 5 years to complete it.
Yeah.
It's and many and like 10% pass. So the passing percentage is very low. Also, and that I mean, once you become a CA in India, you then then your relevance again is a question because all you've studied is Indian taxation. So I really don't understand. I mean, if I wanted to do another certification, because once you're in the role of it, that's what I was thinking. Because now I did my CMA, which I never thought when I entered CMA, I entered with I told you as I was studying with Wiley, and again I was getting a little lost because as I mentioned, I was not from a finance background, and it was just 4 pages of a certain topic which is covered with you in 12 pages. It's a huge difference because I can start from basics and I can understand what you want to say. And when you talk to people in your videos,
Mhm.
it's something that you really feel it. I used to actually listen to your videos while driving to work.
Mhm.
I had put it in my USBs, and I had put certain
Yeah.
topics which were difficult, especially the internal audit, all the theory topics, by the way, all of those with your principles and standards and all those things, which I just put it in the USB and I used to listen to them, which was very helpful for me, obviously. So as you mentioned, CIA is can open up. In future, you see, I'm looking at it in future perspective. You see that future it's open up
Yep.
because of a lot of scams and frauds happening around the world. You see that CIA is something that companies will be looking for, right?
Yep. Yeah. How old are you, if I may ask?
33.
Okay. So you have a lot of career ahead of you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, and it's something too that in a lot of countries, banks
Mm,
and insurance companies have requirements about internal audit and a
yes,
lot more governmental oversight and control. And
right.
so being a CIA,
Mm,
I've talked to a number of people in India
mm-hmm,
about CIA.
mm,
And a lot of people say, well, those jobs are done by CAs and there's not really a market for CIA.
mm,
And that may be the case, but I don't believe that that can be the case in the long run
mm, mm,
because banks have to have internal auditors, insurance companies have to have internal auditors, every multinational company.
mm,
I know Coca-Cola, their internal audit job is a great job to have. I
mm,
mean, there's very developed internal audit careers. And so somebody who's able to kind of say, I specialize in internal audit
yeah,
is
yeah.
you've got to have a better chance than somebody who
Who doesn't?
doesn't.
Yeah,
There have to be internal audit jobs out there.
yeah.
Um,
You're right.
and as soon as you have the opportunity to, to apply for one, the fact that you have studied CIA would have to be an advantage. And I think when you're mentioning about whether or not CMA is beneficial to a career, one
Mm,
of the things I tell people is when you talk about, the benefit of CMA to your
mm,
career is your career's, 30 years. You have
yeah.
30 more years to go.
Mm,
And so after you pass the exam, do you go to the IMA meetings in Dubai? There's an IMA chapter in Dubai
yeah,
that
yeah,
has meetings. I speak to it when I'm in Dubai. I've spoken to them. And so being active in the IMA in Dubai, that's where you find your next job.
yeah, yeah.
Talking to people and getting to know
Network.
somebody, and somebody there is the finance director of a huge company and they're looking for somebody.
Yeah,
And they say, hey, I know a guy.
yeah,
I talk
yeah,
to him every month at the IMA chapter meeting, and he seems like he knows what he's doing. Let me talk to him about taking this position. And so it's that ongoing, I think somewhere I made a video about this, that ongoing staying active
Yeah.
in the chapter, because that's networking.
Yes, networking.
So
Correct.
going to those meetings, it's free networking.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe you have to pay for dinner. I don't know how they work there, but you're meeting people that know what CMA is.
Yeah.
So you don't have to spend 30 minutes trying to convince them that your certification is helpful to them and you know things that they need to know or that they want their employees to know. So you're networking with people that already understand and value what you've done. And that's the next job. That's where that value comes, not immediately. I know it used to be, I'm not sure it is anymore, but in Russia, when people completed ACCA, they'd get a cash bonus. Wow. I don't know if they still do that. I don't know if companies do that anymore, but there used to be more specific, you pass, here's a bonus type of reward to it. But now that bonus comes when you do your job better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get promoted to manager 1 year earlier than would have been otherwise.
Obviously.
Or you get promoted to, senior man, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not so much a direct cash payment, but because you do your job better, your salary goes up.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of things are related. It's just joining the dots. It's actually, I would say that for a person like me or anybody who wants to do a certification in finance, CMA is one of the best. That is no doubt about it. You don't need to see your eligibility. You don't need to see a lot of other things like CPA, as you mentioned. I also wanted to ask a couple of questions regarding your exam success, the way you designed it and the way you developed it and how you've come across. Like I saw your exam success. I believe you've changed it, I think, from last year, a year ago, and then now you've made it more of a piece, like how it looks like in an exam, right? So you feel you get a feeling of an exam when you do those random 100 questions. And one thing I faced there, Brian, was that I saw how many percentage I answered correctly. That always you see, and you're sometimes you're stuck because sometimes you take 10 questions and maybe 10 of them are wrong, or you're stuck at 50, that 50%. You don't have a mechanism? Is that for purpose? I wanted to ask, is it for purpose, or is it something that you have designed it like that you cannot see how many questions you've actually answered, correct or incorrect? You can only see the percentage which are correct, because I made up, like, how, just a quick thing, how I made up, like, my last 10 days of my exams. I wanted to complete your 1280 questions that you have 2 times. I wanted to do it like twice. I couldn't even do it once completely, because maybe I did, I don't know that yet, because some of them I am stuck at the percentage correct, because that's what I can see. You get my point, right?
I do. Let me.
So maybe it's a suggestion, or maybe it's something that I'm wrong. I'm trying to understand.
I think we may have. I'm going to share my screen here.
Yes.
Is this what you were looking for? So here we have each individual topic, how many I've gotten correct, how many are remaining, and what percentage correct.
No, I don't see this sheet. What I see, I didn't see this one.
It may not have existed when you did it.
Yeah.
Because right now what we have is, this is the process.
Yes, this is where
you choose exactly what topic, and I can choose these topics. I can.
Right.
When it opens up here.
Exactly. And
how many topics I want. And here's where it tells you there's information about
that is what you can see. Yeah, 1 out of 31 correct. Yeah, this I know of. This I know. There's multiple topics you can go and you can choose.
And then now we have this.
Yeah, okay. So
this summarizes it by larger topic.
Yeah.
And then this is what you've done in each individual.
Yeah, that also, perfect. Session. And your mock exams have also moved online. Earlier it was on
the mock exams are now part of
that's this one. Yes, exactly. This is something I saw. And when you do the practice questions also, a lot of the questions that you might have answered incorrectly or correctly, they might come back again. And so that's something. And actually I realized it late that those are beneficial for you, because when you do certain questions again and again, it you cannot go wrong in the exam on that particular topic for sure.
The way it works is if I go in here and let's say there's 25 questions here about the
Yes.
directed field. So I say
Yes.
I want to do 15 of them.
Yes, correct.
What it does is out of those 25 questions,
Yeah.
it will show me 15 that I have not attempted before.
Yes. Okay.
If I've attempted all of them,
Yeah.
it will show me the questions that I have not yet gotten correct.
Okay. Yes.
Once I've gotten all of the questions correct,
Right.
it will then show me the questions that I got correct the longest time ago in the past.
Right. Right.
So when I go in, now I don't do questions in exam success. Well, actually here, integrated reporting, I've gotten all 9 of these questions correct.
Yeah.
So if I say I want to do 3 questions, it will give me the questions that I got correct the longest ago.
Longer time ago. Yeah.
Right.
So this
And this
is
one,
yeah.
for balance sheet, it says I've gotten 3 out of 10.
Yes.
If I put in 7 questions, it will give me the 7 that I have not gotten correct.
Okay. Okay.
So we used to have a feature. You used to be able to check,
Yeah.
give me questions I haven't gotten correct,
Yes.
or something.
Yes.
It was something like
It was
that. There
on
was
your
a button.
software. I used the software.
Right.
It was
But
on the software.
now
Yeah.
the software does that automatically.
Yes.
The software automatically gives you the questions that you first haven't seen,
Yes.
then the ones you haven't gotten correct, and then then it does it all just by the oldest question for you.
Correct. I mean, I was getting used to your software, because when I downloaded on my system for part one, when I did part one with your software, it was something which I was getting used to. It used to show a lot of other things as well, and then I think in the middle of last year, I believe you killed the software. You went completely online.
Too
And
much piracy.
okay, okay, was that the reason?
That was a big part of it.
Okay, okay.
Because once it was downloaded, you could share it with your 500 closest friends and
Mm,
they could all use it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
also what's happened is by doing it all online,
yeah.
if you log in on the work computer, you log in on your phone,
Yeah,
you log
it's
in at
seamless.
home,
Yes, yes,
and
yes, yes.
all the
Syncs
statistics
together.
are kept in the same place.
Yes, that's actually good. It syncs together. That's one of the things I really liked. I mean, I used to start 100 questions maybe at one place and then finish it off at another place in another device. So that's
Yeah.
that's something that's really good. In this, maybe if you could, like, if possible, if you could add, like, you have by topic, that these questions answered, 9 out of 10 questions answered. If overall you had, like, in one particular section A, like if you want to see section A only, how many out of 380 questions I've got 15% correct, 5% correct, then I mean, and I could only also see one line that out of, I mean, 20% attempted, something that I was actually actively looking for when I was doing, like, last 3 days of the month. I just want to go, like, on a section A, okay, how many I've attempted, because when you attempt and you're wrong, then also you go to the correct, you see, like,
Right.
your incorrect, um and you see your 3 other
Yeah.
options.
I
One of
think
them is,
I
yeah.
think this page kind of does that because here's each of the topics
Yes.
with and it's also
And
I'm
then
just
it's total as well. Okay, then you can,
yeah, and
yeah.
because here then yeah, here's the total for
Okay, yeah,
section A.
yeah.
I just don't do questions in exam success
No,
and
no, no,
mine are but
even
here
mine,
it's
if I will
color
show you,
coded so
yeah,
you
yeah,
can see also
100,
then
exactly,
I
yeah,
don't remember what's yellow and what's green, whether it's
yeah, yeah.
60% is yellow or something, but
Yeah,
there is a
it's more
color
than
coding to it.
90%, then it changes color.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. But I mean, in even this is, I must tell you, this is like one of the best of them that I have ever seen. It's not something that you can actually go ahead and see somewhere else. It's something that you have, even in other competition, you cannot see so much data and so many questions. Your questions are actually more than enough. 1,000, I mean, 1,000 something
Yeah.
questions you have. It's wow.
We're in the
So,
process. We're going to add probably 1,000 questions in the next few months. But
More.
also what we'll do is, well, this is what people say in the market. Hock doesn't have enough questions. Gleim
Really?
has
No.
more questions. Well, here's an interesting thing. We
Yeah.
get the guarantee that we give.
No, no.
So
I
if
know what you
we
mean.
didn't have enough questions, we would be paying out on this guarantee all the time.
No, no,
And
no.
every year we have 3 or 4 people
Yeah.
that meet the requirements and fail the actual exam.
Out of
So, we
maybe
pay on the UPass, or we pay guarantee 3 or 4 times a year we have to pay.
that's it.
That's it.
Like maybe if 1,000 people
I
are,
don't know. We don't give statistics because we don't know.
yeah. So
I mean,
I mean,
a
three or
year
four
ago,
people
somebody
is
bought
nothing.
a year ago, somebody bought the materials.
Hmm.
Did they take the exam? Did
Hmm.
they pass? Did they fail? We have no
Hmm.
idea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we don't, people want more questions. But
Hmm.
here's the thing.
Hmm.
Every question we add to the software
Hmm.
adds time
Hmm.
that you have to study.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I
Certainly.
add
Yeah.
500 questions to the
It
part
will.
1 software,
Yeah.
how long does it take to do a question? 3 minutes?
3 minutes. Yeah. 3 minutes,
So
or yeah. You have 1.8 on the exam, but yeah, 3 minutes.
if I add 500 questions,
Hmm.
that adds 25 hours
Hours of
of
study.
study.
Yes.
And so if somebody wants to do 10,000 questions,
Yeah.
why?
Why? Yeah.
And so what we're going to do as we add questions, our next step is we're going to take some questions out.
Which are the easy ones, or maybe some ones
Either
which are,
the easy ones or the ones that are essentially the same question, but in slightly different form. And so we'll take out, so it won't be plus 500. It'll be plus 500 minus a
yeah.
couple hundred.
I
Because
mean,
what we want is it all to be good questions. And this is something too that, Gleim has however many thousands of questions. Well,
yeah.
are they good questions? And one of the things I say is I can make a question that says, Company A bought a machine.
Yeah.
It cost $20,000. There's a $2,000 salvage value. Its useful life is 5 years. What is depreciation in year 1?
Mm.
Okay. I can make another question. Company B bought a truck for $40,000. It has a 4-year salvage value and a 5-year useful life. What's the depreciation in year 1?
Mm. Mm.
But you didn't learn anything new.
Yeah. Nothing.
I mean, I can take every question, multiply the numbers by 2,
Mm.
divide the numbers by 2,
Mm.
but it's not a new question. It's not a new
You're right. You're right.
skill or
Yeah.
a new piece of knowledge that you're being tested on.
Yes.
And so what we need to do is put in the new questions. We've got some areas that are like integrated reporting was a new topic.
New
So we
topic.
need to keep developing questions for those. But we'll put in the more difficult questions and take out the easier questions. We'll take out some of the questions that are,
Yeah. General.
duplicates and things like that. So we
Yeah.
just
I
keep
mean,
working on it. It's an ongoing
this
process.
this whole experience is enhanced a lot when you actually do Hawk questions. And I have friends who have done all the three materials. So three major materials here in the UAE, which are obviously you, Wiley, and Glim.
Right.
So there's no, I mean, I don't see Surgeant that much in the UAE. You don't have them here. So people coming back from Glim, people coming back from, sorry, Wiley, to your questions, they always say that your questions start with a big, I mean, your first question itself is a difficult question. They take like 10 minutes to solve the first question itself in the software. And then it gets them into a position when they can solve that question in the exam with less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So obviously your questions are much better. The if you're not, if you're talking about the quantity, I'm talking about the quality of your questions are much better than the competition.
Well,
It's no way.
like I said, every time you do another question, you've added 3 minutes to your study
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And we get people will write us and say, I want to buy your question bank.
Yeah.
And my first question is why? Well, I want to do more questions. And I say, don't buy our question bank.
Mm.
Most of our questions are the same as Gleim.
Yes.
I mean, all the past CMA exam questions are
Will be
the
the
same.
same. Yeah.
So you're not getting, I mean, we have 1,200 questions, but you're not
Mm.
getting 1,200 new questions. And you
Mm.
have to read through all the questions
Mm.
you already know to find the
Mm.
new ones. And if you normally when somebody wants to buy a second question bank, I say, if you want additional materials, you're probably better off buying our videos
Mm.
and
Mm.
watching the videos and getting
Get the concepts.
another perspective on the content of it to understand the content. But just to do another 1,000, I mean, that's interesting. 1,200 MCQs
Mm.
times 3 minutes each is 60 hours.
Mm.
You're better off watching 30 hours of our videos than sitting there practicing questions again and again and
Yeah.
again and again
Yeah.
that you've already
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Awesome.
So these people that study with all three providers, do they
Yeah.
pass?
Uh,
Oh,
the the guy I'm talking about did not pass. He's he scored. He didn't reach his essays in the first attempt, and then he got your material. When he studied with your material, he reached 330. So
getting
330,
closer.
yeah, yeah. So he studied 330, and then at that time he was juggling between, and that's the point when the in part one the section F was added.
Yeah.
From and that he didn't study. So I was very vocal to him. I was saying him that do not leave any section. It's 15%. It's not small. So it's do not leave it, even though just go through the Hock material that you have bought, and you at least if you can just skim through the book and go through it. He didn't have the time for that. So that's one of, if that's the portion that could have taken him across, actually,
Yeah.
that would have taken him across.
Yeah. Some of the decisions candidates make about what to study and not study
Or not, it's, yeah,
is just strange.
yeah, yes,
Well, we now actually have a new course that we're running.
yeah,
That's a live taught course on Zoom
yeah,
that
yeah,
I'm not teaching. I'm not the one
yeah.
who's teaching. And the teacher that we have is very, very good.
In
I don't
UAE.
know if you've seen us advertising it. It's
Yeah.
actually a guy, Kazim, that taught for Hock in Kazakhstan
Mm.
10 years ago.
Wow.
I mean, a long time ago. And so we've known him, for many, many years. And in December, he joined Hock. He's
Okay.
our kind of live instructor. And so he's been running this crash course that we have that's focusing on MCQs.
Mm.
And so this is, you studied and
Mm.
now you're taking your exam and you want to, and so we go over the difficult topics. We don't
Yeah.
cover, like we talked with him, I say,
Mhm.
if I need to go over again and again and again,
Mm.
straight line depreciation with you, you're not going to pass.
There's no point. Yeah.
I'm happy to spend time talking about deferred taxes and
Yes.
the mixed variance and the yield variance. I'm happy to
Yes.
spend a lot of time on
Yes.
those topics. But if FIFO and LIFO are challenging,
Mm. Then you can't
there's
pass.
other problems that we have. So we run this class for part one and part two. It's actually still going on right now.
Mm.
And everybody's loved it.
Mm.
Everybody loved the class. And so the feedback has been very good. And I've sat in on some of the classes. And the thing that's interesting is he is 100% focused on getting people through the exams. And he's taught in India for every provider. He's taught for Logic. He's taught in MBA programs. I mean, he's taught a lot of CMA, but now he works with us.
Yeah.
And so I think that for candidates in India and the Middle East that
Mm.
maybe like you were,
Mm.
where
Mm.
you don't have that background,
Mm. Mm.
but you want that, I mean, it's 150 hours of classes.
Mm.
That is now
Then,
available.
yeah. Yeah.
And so he's going to, I'm glad that we've been able to add, because I know in India, we work with a lot of providers in India that
Mm.
use our materials for their classes.
Yes.
And some of these providers have 600 hours of class,
Mm. Okay.
just a huge number of hours of classes. And I just kind of think, what do you do? But it's a lot of MCQs.
Mm.
Every MCQ is done. And these
Yeah.
are students, they tell me that they're oftentimes university students who don't
Mm.
care.
Mm.
And so they never do any work outside of class.
They
And
would
so in
only do,
class,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you have
That
to
would
do
be,
every step
yeah.
of the way.
That's like hand holding. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
that's, but my 30 hours of videos don't do hand holding.
yeah. They won't.
I
They won't.
tell you what you need to know and move on. But
But
Kazim does a very good job of,
yeah, I mean, but this is your videos. Is in a way is the point that connects when a person is just lost when he's going through the textbook, and then he goes to an MCQ, and if I see an example video of yours, okay, of that particular topic, when you do the example, but the best part is that you do examples.
yeah,
That's something that is unmatchable to anything else. So
right.
that's when it's like a hammer and a nail going in my head that I can never forget that variances. I put this thing also,
Yeah,
it's still
I
here. I
saw
didn't
it.
Yeah, I didn't even remove it. I have my sticky notes on my walls. I didn't remove it. I didn't have the thing to remove it, so that, because when I passed it, it was, I don't know if you're really feeling it. It was something that I've gone to Everest, because it was that feeling for me, because for me to pass a CMA, which I had no knowledge of, I had
Mhm.
zero knowledge of finance, I had zero knowledge of accounting, and when the only thing I had is on the job that I learned. I was good in collections. I was good in getting money out of people's pockets. So, so that's where I landed up, being a credit manager. I can do credit decisions. I can do credit analysis. That's something that is the easier part of it. I can do that. But I run a team here of around 10 individuals around the Gulf now. So I couldn't be someone who doesn't have any knowledge of finance. So that
Yeah,
I couldn't afford to be one of that. So that's why I took a step ahead when a friend of mine suggested do CMA. And when I started on this journey, and I failed the first time miserably. So that time I was not studying your material. I feel like I didn't even go to the essay section at that time. So I failed miserably at that time. Then when I started studying with your material, it was October 2019 is when I actually September 2019 is when I bought your material, and I started studying religiously for through Hock 101, completely with your videos, textbook, and
yeah,
everything. And I gave my exam in October, and I got around 330 or 340 something I got, and I cried the whole night out. So because it was just a leap. I mean, it's just a 5 or 6 questions, I believe. That's it. That could
yeah,
have done the job. And then I gave it again, and I didn't give up. I gave it again in Feb. I passed with the 380 part one
yeah.
with
That's
data analytics and everything. Yeah, I passed with Feb, and your material. I'm telling you, I mean, and Fayaz sir's guidance, his guidance in your material together was like best. I mean, it's quite in the way he teaches. Also, I should tell you about this. Actually, he's a part of the success story also. So he teaches your material uh, page by page. Okay, so he goes through every page, and the ones which are really required, he'll go through your page, he'll go through the material, and he'll read through it, and the person will understand it. So that's the kind of study. Then he solved questions with you in your book. Whatever questions were in the book was solved by him together in the class. So
yeah,
that's how we did the Zoom class. And part two I've passed in first attempt now in October. So my exam was I gave in October. It was shifted due to the pandemic in November, and I passed.
right.
So wonderful. I mean, your material. If it wouldn't have been your material, I can tell you, I can write it down, and I can tell everyone that I wouldn't have passed. I'm sure. I'm 100% sure of this. What are your views, Brian, on COVID-19 pandemic, and how is your company dealing with it, and what do you think is in the future holds for us?
Uh, from our standpoint, we all worked at home anyway.
Mm,
And so from our work standpoint, and I've said for a long time, as a family, our family has been, no family has been affected less than ours. I mean, obviously our kids didn't go to school but every family that in
mm,
America that had
mm,
children, that happened. But since we worked at home,
mm.
we didn't have any adjustments to, from working in an office to working at home.
Yeah.
And we we've grown. We've had
Yeah.
more students than we've ever had, which I think is, there's two things. One, I think it's, we're growing with word of mouth advertising as part
Mm,
of it.
mm,
And so it's as you tell your friends
yeah.
and colleagues,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so there's this kind of a growth. We're doing better marketing than we did before.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, I think there's probably some element that a lot of classes didn't happen.
Mm,
So people were studying by themselves.
yeah.
People that normally would have gone to a class,
Yeah.
a live taught class, didn't. And
Yeah.
so some of them may have ended up, buying materials to study
Yeah.
themselves instead of going to a training company.
Mm,
Um, but it's from our standpoint, I mean, from a
it's no
business
change.
standpoint,
Yeah.
it's been very minimal. I mean, obviously, from a societal
Yeah.
standpoint
It's huge.
and all of that, it's been huge. But well, we lost. I mean, we provide materials to companies in India that use
Yeah.
our materials in their classes. So as they
Yeah.
stopped having classes,
Yeah.
we, I mean,
Yeah.
I was just looking, our um, provider sales in January
Yeah.
were better than they were last year
Okay.
because companies are starting, their classes are kind of starting up again, and there's a little
Yeah.
more of that happening. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But this online thing, I mean, especially Zoom has boomed and everything is booming. I believe this might be good for your business in another,
it
you know.
will change
Yeah.
training, and it's something too. It's not just our business. It's um, if you think about it,
Yeah.
there are better accounting teachers than others,
Mm,
right? I mean, some people teach overhead better than other people.
right.
And so by going to online,
Mm,
what that means is everybody in the world can study from the person who best teaches that
correct.
topic. And so,
True.
I mean, if I hire Kazim and he's the best teacher in India,
Yeah.
well, now everybody's online.
Yeah.
So whether there's 10 people online or 100 people online listening
Yeah.
really doesn't matter very much.
Yeah.
And so I think what this is ultimately going to do for a lot of industries is it allows people to access more the leaders. And this is our kids' school.
Yeah.
So our kids' school at the end of last year was all online.
Yeah.
This year it's you a family could choose their kids only online,
Yeah.
or our kids go to school every Monday, Thursday, and every other Wednesday.
Yeah.
And the other kids go on Tuesday, Friday, and every other
Yeah.
Wednesday. So the way I looked at it is school district, and there's 20,000 students in the school district. There is the best American history teacher. Somebody teaches American history better than anybody else. So really, what the school district should do is say, okay, if you are in ninth grade and you're studying online, everybody is going to listen to this person.
Mm, mm,
He's our best history teacher.
yeah.
So everybody else who's not the best history teacher, we don't need you. You can grade exams and answer student questions, but we're not going to have you teach
Yes.
because this guy's better.
Yes.
And we want him to do all the teaching.
Yeah.
And so I think there's an opportunity for, and not just, any
Institutions.
people, travel isn't as important.
Mm,
It isn't so much you have to be there face to face with the
yes.
person.
Yes.
So if there's an expert who lives in some village somewhere,
Can
they can
actually.
share that knowledge much more with people than they could before.
Yeah. A lot of those videos are going viral online where
Yeah.
teachers in India are using smartphones to teach. And I mean, I think, I mean, it's a very potential industry which people should strictly, I mean, seriously look at, which can boom a lot in the future. It's a very, very billion-dollar industry.
Yeah. And part of it is realistically now with all the pirated materials that are out there,
Yeah.
you don't need to buy materials from me to pass because there's places that you can get the Gleim book for free, the Wiley book for free, your friend will give it to you and all of that. And so what we need to do is, what are the services that we continue to provide to our candidates
Mm,
that is valuable?
mm,
And so it's something like, we've always tried to be as cheap as possible.
okay.
Okay? It's something that I finally realized, that I don't care if Gleim is more expensive.
Mm,
It's not an ego thing for me that we're more expensive than Gleim. I would rather sell to two people for $500
mm,
than one person for 1,000.
yeah.
And so if and so when these companies have, and I don't do it all the time, but I compare prices.
Mm,
I think if I can sell my materials
yeah.
with the guarantee and classes with Kazan
Mm,
for the same price as you can go to whatever provider locally for your class,
yeah.
you should study with me instead,
Yes.
because I give a better guarantee.
Mm,
And so it's, what is it that business, and it's not just every business, has to continually be thinking about what is the um, value that they're able to provide. I know that one of the things too, if you notice, we always have a 40% sale now.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, everybody, whatever price you have,
Mm,
there are customers that say, can I get a bigger discount?
mm,
And so instead of this is what our competitors do.
mm,
They start at $2,000. And apparently when you sign up for their free trial or whatever, they just call you and call you and call you and call you. And I'm sure what happens is, they start at 2,000 or whatever. No, well, we'll give you 1,800. No, okay, 1,600. No, 1,400. No, 12. They keep going down. And what they're doing is, they are trying to find the maximum price you're willing to pay.
mm, mm,
Because in any transaction, there's a minimum price that I need to receive,
yeah.
and there's a maximum price you're willing to pay.
Yeah.
So if the maximum price you're willing to pay is 300 and my minimum price is 400,
Yeah.
no deal. If my minimum price is 400 and your maximum price is 500, well, then we both can be happy. But what these companies are saying is, they start at 2,000 and they keep coming down until they find your maximum price.
Yeah.
And what I finally said was, I don't care. I'm just going to have a 40% discount
Yeah.
at the beginning and be done with it. And I will tell you, this is the price I'm willing to sell at. Now, if you come to me and you have a good story, I might give you 45%. If you come with your friends, I'll give you 45%. But I'm not trying to find what's the maximum price you're willing to pay.
Mm, that's good. That's good.
Just this is what it's worth. This is the value I've given it. This is the minimum price I'm willing to sell for. And it's something too, sometimes people start discussions with me. Well, there's no additional costs for you to sell to me, so you can give me 50% off. Well, based on that argument, I can give you 99% off too, because as long as I get $1, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But there is a limit as to what it will
No,
be.
no, there is obviously, I mean, what people fail to understand, I believe, is there is a value to a product which it should be valued at. And I mean, if you get it for free, like it's like a gym membership. If I get a gym membership for free, I will not go and utilize it. Even if you get that book for free, you're not going to read it. You're not going to get a CMA. So that's something which is very important for people to understand and realize that when you actually pay for it, there's a difference when then getting it for free. So
One of the things we're always working on improving, but the next iteration of our pass map is going to try to figure out we're working on being more interactive with the student and kind of keeping you online. And one of the things I'm going to do more of going forward is kind of non-exam communication,
okay.
just
Okay.
general career life,
Yeah.
but that that engagement that helps keep you focused on what it is you're trying to do.
Well,
And
yeah.
so if I'm able to create a little bit more of a connection with you as a student,
Mhm.
then you might be a little more motivated to keep going through CMA.
Yeah.
And so just some of those things that are outside of specifically teaching you variance overheads,
Yeah.
overhead, but just helping this whole process. And part of it is, career,
Yeah.
that this is one of the things we just wrote was, you know, you're going to make more money.
Mhm.
You're going to benefit from getting your certification.
Mhm.
So why wait? Start now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If the result is going to provide benefit to you,
Mm.
why do you want to wait 2 years to start?
Mm.
Just start now.
Perfect.
Let's make a plan. Let's make the decision, and we're going to get you through.
Perfect.
So you can start benefiting instead of wait. Well, I'm going to wait
You
until I
wait
move.
for it.
I'm going to wait
Yeah.
until I
Yeah.
get a new. I'm going to wait
No
till I
point.
get promoted. I'm going to wait. Well,
It's not never gonna happen for those people.
there's always something.
Yeah.
There's
There's always
always
something.
something that can be the reason not to start.
Yeah.
So let's help get over that
Yeah.
first starting point.
First, yeah, that's just to go to the gym is the hardest part. When you just go there and start working out, is obviously this is the same thing.
Right.
One of my closing questions, I know it's with well
Yep.
over 1 hour,
Oh, it's okay.
is I don't know. I'm feeling guilty though. Yeah, it's
No,
just if I'm taking it. I hope you're also enjoying the conversation. Yeah.
I
So
am.
perfect. Well, one of my questions was that I was planning to migrate to Canada because I wanted. I mean, there's obviously more to try to get there and start a career in, and that's, I mean, that was one of my reasons that I wanted to do a CMA so that I could land up a job in Canada easier than it would be without a CMA. So, I mean, what are your suggestions for a person like me who has spent quite like 11 years in I mean, it's been 11 years for me in Dubai, and I've worked various jobs, and I'm quite like the job that I'm in right now. I have grown from being a credit controller to a group credit manager now, and obviously, CMA portion, the portions that I have learned, it has helped me immensely in doing my job better, as we discussed earlier. So, if now I take my career, because obviously I'll have to end here and start over in Canada, right? Now, if for a person like me, what are your suggestions, and how do I s- make a strong base, and where do I start from? How do I search a job? How is
Yeah.
CMA going to help me there in Canada? What
Are
is it like?
you are you married?
Yes, I have a kid. I have a kid. I'm going to show him to
Okay.
you quickly. Yeah, yeah.
So it's not just you, is
It's
my
my
question.
family. Yeah,
It's
it's my
your
family.
family is moving to
Yes.
Canada.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, moving is a risk
Yes.
because, like you said, you may be starting over a
Yes.
career. And so you move to Canada and it doesn't. You don't find the job, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
I, does your current employer have operations in Canada?
No.
I would, since you're married and have a child, I would move to Canada when you have a job and not move to Canada and find a job.
I really wish that was an option. I'm trying to find such an option. No.
Well, the one thing would be, what are the Canadian companies I mean, get a job in Dubai
Mm,
that's with a company that has operations in Canada.
okay. Good point.
Because if you're working for, I don't know, Canadian Oil Petroleum,
Mhm.
whatever, some Canadian company, and you do a good job,
Mm,
and you say, hey, I'd like to end up in Canada,
mm.
they have a mechanism to do that. Now, I don't know what the immigration laws are in Canada and work permits,
Yeah, yeah,
but if you
yeah,
quit your job and move to Canada,
yeah,
what work
yeah.
are you going to be able to find initially? And
So
how are you going to get that? Maybe Canada doesn't have work permits and you can just go and get a job. I don't know.
yeah.
But what is that first job? I know a guy that I worked with in Russia. This was
Mm,
15 years ago.
yeah.
He
Yeah.
moved to Canada and his first job was cleaning the factory.
Mm,
And he worked
wow.
in
Yeah.
just the bottom level of the company for a few years, I think, before he was able to get a job that was much more realistic to what his capabilities were.
This is the blue collar, white collar thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was leaving Russia and he really, really wanted to leave Russia. So he was willing to take a long step back to
Hmm.
be able to do that. Um, why do you want to go to Canada?
Why I want
Yeah.
to go to Canada is
Why do you want to leave Dubai?
because there are certain citizenship laws,
Okay.
and my brother-in-law has already got a PR. So I have applied for a PR. Most probably this year will be, you know,
Yeah.
fingers crossed. But I mean, obviously that's how it is. I mean, so many friends of mine who have moved, is the same story, that you need to go there and start finding something. And obviously CMA helps, because a friend of mine there in Canada is trying to do CMA with surgeons, not able to do it. Not getting the time is the thing that he says. So um, there is obviously there are times when you can actually get a job without your CMA as well. Yeah, that's possible. I mean,
Right.
obviously you'll have to start over in a lower position that I am in currently. But when I have a CMA, I thought, and I'm sure, by the way, that I should be able to land a job which should be, if not if not more, and equal to what I am currently. And
Right.
starting over with a PR, obviously the life that we see, Brian, over the countries in such as Canada and the US, for for a few people who can actually get the citizenship. For my son, there would be, I mean, a retired life, a better life. I mean, a better life, obviously, because after 20 years even working in Dubai, I'll have to go back to India and start all over again.
Mhm.
I'm not there's no citizenship here, so that's the main thing. That's actually what is attractive in
Well,
it.
it sounds like you don't need to move to Canada next month.
Yes, no,
So it's not something that is
not now. No, yeah,
I need to go and the first opportunity I get, I have to take.
yeah,
So part of it is, doing the networking
yes,
in terms of, you know, um, I don't know what the Canadian embassy offers in
yeah,
Dubai, but just what are the companies that are there? Try to find a job with a company that has operations or a multi. I mean, uh, you know, it doesn't need to be a Canadian company,
yeah.
but a company that,
It has operations in
I
Canada.
mean,
Yeah,
not that,
yeah,
McDonald's.
yeah,
Okay, there's
yeah,
McDonald's in Canada,
yeah,
so there's these companies that Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, that all
yeah.
have operations in
Mm,
Canada.
mm.
That becomes the administrative part of getting to Canada.
Yeah, yeah,
That you're going with the job, that they're going to provide
yeah,
the visa, work permit, whatever is required,
yeah.
that eliminates that big risk of moving to Canada.
Actually, I mean, it is a big risk. I always think about it, and I get sometimes nightmares about it. That what if you land up there and you don't get a life that you actually thought of?
Yeah.
It's a risk maybe worth taking. With the
Well,
kind of,
and it's when you start thinking about your child
yes,
that it becomes a
yes,
risk worth taking.
it
It's
is.
not about, and obviously, I mean, I spent 18 years living in Russia, so I
Yeah,
understand a little bit about. But the difference for me was I always knew I was going to return to America.
yeah,
I was able to go that my time in Russia is
mm,
okay, temporary. It was 18 years temporary, but
yeah.
it wasn't. I mean, I always knew that I could
Go
just
back.
one
Yeah,
day I woke up and I said, I'm done. I'm ready to, ready to move. Um, and you're doing something a little bit different than that. You're
yeah.
making a commitment
A
to
country.
Canada.
Yeah.
But when you have a longer time frame, when you're not thinking about, will my life be better 2 years from now? Maybe it won't.
Yeah.
Will my child's life 10 years from now be better? Yes, it will.
Yes.
So if you're willing to
Sacrifice.
clean the factory floor for a little while, that makes it a lot easier to make that decision.
So that's why CMA is there. I mean, doing a CMA, I might not have to do that. So,
Yeah.
I might be able to land a job right in the first month or maybe in the second. So it is something, also a reason that, certification would help a lot. Um, well, Brian, thanks a lot for your time. I'll just quickly call my son so you can, I mean, see what I was. I'll just show him to you and my family quickly, so that we have because my wife as well has been quite vocal about your material. She loved it. She loved it, and she's been. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have passed. That's why. That's also one thing I say to everyone, because she
Well,
has
I
been
tell
very
people,
strict.
I tell people when you start studying, your spouse needs to know what
To
you're doing
yes,
and has to understand that you're going to spend time studying. And
yes,
so having your spouse, having your wife be
yes,
supportive of that is a big part of it.
yes. So here he is.
Yeah.
Say say hello to Uncle Brian.
Hello,
Say hello.
how are you?
Say hello. Hmm.
What is your name?
What is your
What
name?
is your name?
What's your name? What's your name? Don't do that, Harriet. Your mother's going to hit you very bad. So, come here, come here. I've been talking about you as well. It's okay that you don't have any makeup on. It's okay. You look beautiful. Come. She's
I don't have any makeup on either.
she's my wife.
Yesterday I did.
Hi, hi,
Hello.
Brian. How are you?
Very well. How are
It's a
you?
pleasure meeting you. Actually, been seeing you on the videos and all. Really glad you
I'll tell
made
you,
some time for us. Thank you so much.
you've heard so much about me. You've heard my
Yeah,
voice
absolutely.
20 times probably.
Yeah, and it's really your material is actually helpful. Yeah, because I sat with him for few
Yeah.
for the part 2, and I actually myself also went through the course.
Hmm.
Your
Ah,
material was very helpful. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
my pleasure.
You're doing
My
a very
pleasure.
good. I mean,
Glad
you've
that
done
it helped.
so
It's
much.
always good to know that it works.
Yeah, actually, it's very good.
It
Yeah.
works. It works. I'm a clear example. Okay. Thank you, Brian, for
My
giving.
pleasure. Stay
And
in touch.
I will stay in touch.
Absolutely.
I will keep.
Yeah, let me know what happens with what you're doing, and if
Yes.
there's anything I can do that might be able to help, let me know.
Whenever you're in Dubai, please let us know.
I
Uh,
don't know when it'll be, but I will be
yeah.
back as
Yeah.
soon as when
As
I'm
soon as
able
things
to.
are normal. Yeah. As things
Yeah,
everything are normal.
yeah.
Thank you.
I
Say
will be
bye.
back. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Do flying fish.
Bye.
He's giving a fly.
Bye.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Take care. Bye bye.
You
Thanks for
too.
your time.